Hello, greetings, and salutations. Welcome aboard my podcast. I am Jason with Jay's Paradise Travels. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. Today I'm going to be talking about my experience seeing the Florida Gators. Before I get into all that, though, I want to do a little housekeeping. Just get that out of the way. First off, if you would like to go on vacation, specifically a cruise, which is my specialty, or perhaps you want to go see a game, maybe you would like to go see the Florida Gators as well. You can reach out to me and I'd be willing to help you with that. There's a couple different ways that you can do that. One way you can reach out to me is through social media. I have both a Facebook and Instagram handle, and they're both the same. Jay's Paradise Travels. That's Jays. There's no apostrophe in there. Jay's Paradise Travels. So again, you could reach out to me through Instagram or Facebook. Or I also have an email address that you could reach out to me as well. My email address is j.paradise_travels@gmail.com. That's jay.paradise_travels@gmail.com. All right, now that the housekeeping is out of the way, let me go ahead and talk about my experience with the Florida Gators. Now, seeing the Florida Gators ended up being part of a big vacation in a way. Um, Me, my wife, and my parents had gone on a cruise, a 7-day cruise on the Carnival Mardi Gras. We left out of Port Canaveral. This was back in October of 2021. After we got done with the cruise, and I mean immediately after getting done with that cruise, when we got back into port, and we have some family that lives out that way. I have an uncle, aunt, my grandparents live out that way as well. Now they used to be snowbirds, but just recently moved there permanently. But at the time they were snowboards. Anyways, we have family out there, and my uncle was nice enough to let us borrow his work truck for the weekend. And that Saturday, the cruise was a Saturday to Saturday. We came in, got in early, and then me and my dad borrowed that truck, and we went up to Gainesville, which is where the Florida Gators are located. They're in Gainesville, Florida. We were in Port Canaveral area, get up to Gainesville. I want to say maybe a couple hour drive, something to that effect. Uh, Port Canaveral is kind of more like the middle part of the state on the east side, and Gainesville is a little bit more north. So we were able to do the cruise, get off the cruise, immediately go to this game, and then the following day we actually went to a Jacksonville Jaguars game. Um, and then after that, maybe a day or two later, we left, went to Virginia to visit my in-laws. Me and my wife did. My parents went home, and from there got to go see a Virginia Tech Hokies game. All of that was all in one trip, and for me, one of an ideal trip. Um, Going on a cruise, plus get to see not one, not two, but three games. This was one of those games. This was the first game of the three that I got to see on this entire trip. As regards those other uh, games, um, and then going on Carnival, all of that different podcasts. I encourage you to listen to that. This one is going to be talking about my experience with the Florida Gators. As I mentioned, we borrowed his car, drove up there, a couple hour drive to get from where we were up to Gainesville. When we got there, uh, there was some traffic, obviously normal game day traffic, and I wanted to get in before the game started. We were struggling to find someplace to park though, which is kind of typical and very frustrating when it comes to going to college sporting events. I've noticed. Um, for whatever reason, they just don't have their stuff together sometimes when it comes to parking. And it gets very frustrating. We found this place near a lot, and I want to say it was kind of like on the grass to a degree that we parked. And I don't remember seeing anyone there. We didn't see anything or anyone to pay, but we saw other people parking there. It wasn't like we just went rogue. um, we ended up parking there and hoped for the best. Thankfully, when we got back, there was no parking tickets. Car hadn't been towed or anything like that. I was like, all right, I guess it was all right. I couldn't even tell you where that was exactly. Not far from the stadium. Once we got out of it, we saw, like I said, other people parking there in that area too. So maybe they just allow that, and if so, cool. All right, nice. If you can go to a game and somehow get away with free parking, by all means. Parking has become one of my uh, annoyances of going to a game, is because especially college, the pros a lot of times have parking lots or parking structures either directly connected to the stadium or very close to it. For whatever reason, college be a bunch of nonsense. They don't have defined parking lots all the time, and if they do, it's like, okay, well, you have to be a season ticket holder, or or next thing you know, you're parking on someone's front yard for more than what the ticket costs. So it just parking's become kind of a nuisance, and a frustrating thing. But there, it was frustrating when we couldn't find anything to begin with, and then we ended up taking advantage of that, which cool, it worked out in the end. But then you're kind of fretting, like, am I violating something? Am I doing something illegal? Am I going to come back? My car's gone, or got a ticket or something like that? Anyways, but that ended up working out. So we parked, walked over to the stadium, walked with the crowd, down these streets, up and down these streets, crossed over. A lot of people crossing the streets, getting to the stadium. I tried taking pictures of the outside because that is my hobby. The stadium is kind of a lot of trees there, and it's not doesn't have at least where I was entering didn't have super clear shot of anything. But I was able to get the best that I could with it. Uh, it was nice. I tried getting a picture of the sign, but they didn't really have a sign of the stadium name. So I ended up just going with what I could see, which was um, it just said UF, University of Florida. I was like, all right, that's the closest thing I'm going to get to it. I took a picture of that, and we got in. And of course, when we got in, where we entered, our seats were on the other side. We were on the main floor. We were up. I mean, our seats were upper deck. And it's like, of course, we got to go all the way around. And as we go around one way, and I can see because we're on the main concourse, main level. The players are practicing, so we're a little closer to them, and that's kind of cool to see. We go around, and we kind of get to a point where our section number is. We're like right next to it. Like, okay, and I know that we're in the upper deck, but there was from where we are to where the section was. It wasn't connected, I guess you could say. You couldn't just keep going. We ended up going all the way up, and when we got up there, it's like we still can't get over, and it was kind of frustrating. I'm like, we are literally one section next to it, and yet I can't get to my seat. I had to come all the way down, and then kind of go down and all the way around to be able to get to that section to go all the way up again. I felt like took a lot of time and energy to get to my seat, which was I was so close to it, so close yet so far. Very frustrating with that. Super hot day too, and when it's a super hot day, I mean, it is Florida after all. Even though it's northern Florida, it was still a super hot day. And even though it was in October, again, it was still a super hot day. The next day, when we went to Jacksonville, saw the Jaguars, which again, another podcast. Please take a listen. Super hot day is there as well. But that is what it is. That's Florida. Um, we got to our seats finally, and we were able to sit down, watch the game. The game started off with Florida scoring a couple touchdowns in the first quarter. There was a young man named Damian Pierce. Uh, he was pretty active in this game. He scored the opening touchdown of the game for Florida. Ended up taking a 7-0 lead. Eventually, Emory Jones, who their quarterback was, he had a pretty productive game as well. They were playing the Vanderbilt Commodores. He threw a touchdown pass in the first quarter as well. Both of them combined 14-0 at the end of the first quarter. Second quarter, the scoring was cut in half. Only one touchdown was scored in the second quarter. That also was again by Florida. Emory Jones threw another touchdown pass in the second quarter. They would take a 21-0 lead going into halftime. There was okay, Vanderbilt is probably not the best team in the SEC, historically speaking. They at times will have a decent year or rise up for a game or something like that. I'm recording this in 2025. Last season, 2024, they actually rose up and beat Alabama in a big shocker. I was in, I was watching, I was in California going to Stanford and going to Cal that day when that happened. Um, but historically speaking, Vanderbilt isn't like the top dog of the SEC. Um, so I wasn't expecting this to be a Vanderbilt upset. I wasn't expecting them to uh, rise up and pull out a victory against Florida. And even though Florida's, they were like 3-2 at the time, uh, not horrible, not great, mediocre. But I still didn't expect Vanderbilt to come away with a win. But I did expect them to at least put up a fight, and they did a little bit at the beginning. As I mentioned, 21-0 going to halftime. I don't see Vanderbilt coming back from this, and sure enough, they didn't. In the third quarter, Florida doubled their score. They ended up getting another couple touchdown passes by Emory Jones, one of them to Damian Pierce. And then Damian Pierce also rushed for a touchdown. He rushed for a 1 yard touchdown to start the scoring in the game in the first quarter, and then he ran for a 1 yard touchdown to end the scoring in the third quarter for Florida. They went up 42-0 at that point. Fourth quarter ended up being no score. That's why I say it. So Damian Pierce ended the scores with 1 yard touchdown runs. He also caught a touchdown pass. Emory Jones had 4 touchdown passes thrown altogether. Ended up being a final score 42-0. Florida defeated Vanderbilt. As I mentioned, I expected Florida to beat Vanderbilt. That was no surprise. But I expected Vanderbilt to put up a little bit of a fight, at least maybe score something. At one point, they may have missed a field goal or anything like that. Going back a few years, I can't remember everything Vanderbilt did during that game. Obviously, it wasn't much to remember. They scored 0 points. uh, not very memorable. Florida, on the other hand, handled business and proved that they were the superior team that day. As regards to the stadium itself, um, it's entitled. The name of it is Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. Who Ben Hill Griffin is? No idea. I'm not a Florida fan. I was a Florida fan for one day that day, but I don't know the history of whoever that name is. If you're a Florida fan, feel free to put in the comments. Tell me who he is, what he did, what he represents to Florida. Why he's important, so important enough that they named the stadium after him. Because I don't know. Um, yeah, so that's what it's. That's the official name of it, the Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. But it is affectionately referred to as the Swamp. Um, I didn't spend much time in Gainesville. Uh, I didn't get to go to any swamps, but I'm guessing there must be some around. And yeah, sure, it's definitely hot and muggy there. It is Florida after all. But yeah, it's affectionately called the Swamp. I thought that was kind of a neat little nickname for it, the Swamp. In fact, there's even within the stadium, within the bowl, they do have a sign in one of the corners saying "Welcome to the Swamp," which I thought that was kind of cool. I've always liked that little unique when it comes to a stadium, something that it offers, having that little sign there within the crowd, I guess you could say. There was a few other signs too. Those other signs dealt with championships. One of them dealt with they're in the SEC, so it showed their SEC championship years. And then the other one was for their national championship years. They've had a few national championships under their belt, all within my lifetime too. Um, and so I was able to take pictures of both of those. And the stadium's kind of interesting. It is two-story. There's a lower deck and an upper deck, um, which can be clearly seen at least on the end zones. But from my vantage point, it's like as regards the uh, in between uh, in between the end zones on the sidelines, it almost looks like it's one. as opposed to two. It's kind of unique in that way too. Cool stadium, I got to admit. A little on the older side. They've been around a little bit, a little while, but it was kind of cool to see. And I remember some friends that I went to a Tampa Bay Buccaneers game years before that, uh, following them on Instagram, which they were down in Tampa area. I mean, certainly drivable within a day. I remember seeing them post pictures of going to a Florida game, and I was kind of jealous at the moment, like, oh man, they got to go to that. I didn't get to go yet, but now I have since then. Um, Glad that I got to. Where I was sitting across from us, there was a big press box, and that press box on it, it says Steve Spurrier Florida Field. So the stadium's name is Ben Hill Griffin, but a lot of teams do this. They'll name the actual field after somebody. Steve Spurrier, he was a coach for Florida years ago, and uh, he was one that did very well with them, and I think even won their first national championship was under Steve Spurrier. Yeah, and so I guess he got the field named after him. Good for him. And I think eventually he went to go coach at South Carolina, a team that when he was coaching Florida, he was a coach that liked to have a high-powered offense from up the score, from what I remember. And he always handled South Carolina, always always defeated them pretty good. And then now he went to go coach them. That was years ago. He's actually retired since then. Um, Fine coach. And so he got the field named after him. Good for him. And good for Ben Hill Griffin, whoever that guy is, having a stadium named after him too. uh, yeah, so that's some unique things about the stadium itself. Pretty cool stadium to go see again. Kind of historic. Florida's has some history. So just kind of some miscellaneous things about Florida and just in general. Um, they've had a few national titles under their belt. One was under Steve Spurrier. I'm pretty sure. I didn't fact check it, but I'm pretty sure he won a national title with them back in like the 90s at some point. And then mid to late 2000s, Urban Meyer came from Utah. Initially came from Bowling Green from that Ohio guy, and worked his way to Utah over to Florida. Ended up coaching the Florida Gators for a little bit, and kind of made them a dominant powerhouse. For many of you know, I'm a Michigan guy. I work in Michigan. Michigan's the team I grew up rooting for, so can't say Urban Meyer's my most favorite person in the world, but I have to respect him as a college coach. Um, he won some national championships both with Florida and with Ohio State. I have to respect that. And he did it with, I think the first quarterback was it Chris Leak in his first national title. I want to say they went back to back, and then with Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow, many people have heard that name before. Um, and I think those are the two uh, that he won the national championship with. So they've had three over the years. Basketball, they may have a little different story with them with basketball. I know basketball's had some good. I remember being down in Miami visiting some Greek friends of mine, and they were rooting the one guy. He was rooting for the Florida basketball team back then, which I thought was kind of funny because he lives in Miami. Now I would guess that he wouldn't root for Florida because if he was a Miami fan, but he may not be a Miami fan. He might be a Florida fan, or he just likes the teams in the state of Florida. Some people are like that. Um, they just like whatever the teams are in that state. They don't really care about the rivalry. Uh, so that could have been. I never got a chance to ask him. He passed away a few years ago. Never got a chance to ask him about that. Like, did he like all the teams or what was going on with that? Oh well, that's all right. He was rooting for him, so that was a memory I had of Florida. I remember growing up kind of liking Florida a little bit. I liked their colors and something about them. Maybe their logo, the Gators. I don't know, something about them. I kind of liked them. They were my favorite team. Michigan was, but at that time, Michigan really didn't have anything going on with Florida. They hadn't played them or anything, uh, so I didn't have any bad blood against them. And I remember growing up, Miami was a dominant powerhouse for a couple years. Um, and then Florida State was a pretty dominant team under Bobby Bowden for years too. Uh, and then there was Florida, and I didn't care for Florida State, and Miami was okay. So I kind of between those three big major schools in Florida, the Florida Gators were the one that I liked more. And then Urban Meyer came to town, and I didn't care for him too much, even though he hadn't coached Ohio State yet. I just remember seeing a way that he treated like a reporter or something at practice, and how he yelled at him or something. And I know there's two sides of a story, so his side, he's going to have his side of it. But from what I saw of it, I didn't, it didn't sit well with me, I guess, and just didn't really care for him all too much from there on out. And then he went and coached Michigan's biggest rivalry and really cemented himself as someone I didn't particularly care for, beating them every single year and whatnot. Um, yeah, but at the time I didn't care. So my likeness of Florida went down. I liked them, and then I didn't. Since he's left them, so he built them up into a powerhouse and won a couple national championships. Since leaving, Florida has had some years that they've had good years, and then they have some years that they're not great. Um, well, it is what it is, depending on who you get coaching you. You're going to be either really good or not. Um, so I don't feel the disliking of them like I did before. And Michigan has played Florida a few times, and for the most part has beaten them. The last time they played in a bowl game, Florida beat them. So it's not like I even have I can't stand them because of what they did to Michigan either. Although I wasn't too fond of the last bowl game when they did beat them pretty good. Uh, but other than that, I don't have too much bad blood against them. So uh, I guess I've liked them a little bit more, compared to when Urban Meyer was coaching them, and I didn't care for him at all at that point. I remember when we were growing up driving everywhere. This is kind of a side little story, but we used to drive everywhere. We didn't fly too much unless it was out to like the West Coast. And I remember driving down to Florida or driving up from Florida. It was one of the two. We were coming back from vacation. I think we were coming back. We weren't going to vacation. We were coming back, and we drove like past Gainesville, or I saw a sign for Gainesville, and I made a comment about it because even back then I hadn't had the hobby, hadn't been going to road games, but the interest was there, the fascination was there. Um, and my mom kind of made a joke like, "Oh, you blink, you miss Gainesville," and I think that's kind of funny. Although I don't, she doesn't know much about Gainesville, and I don't even know how big Gainesville is. To be honest with you, I've been there once to see the Florida Gators, and we just went there, went to the game, and came back. I didn't spend time in Gainesville. How big it is, what the people are like, if there's a lot of stuff to do, I don't know. And that does happen a lot. A lot of times when I go someplace, I go to the game. Sometimes I stick around. Sometimes, not always, but a lot of times I go to the game and then I gotta come right back, either come back home so I can, work, or got come home to other responsibilities. I don't always get to stick around for a super long time in the city. Um, yeah, so she kind of was like, "Yeah, if you blink, you miss it." I thought that was kind of funny. But the stadium itself is a decent sized stadium. The capacity of it's 88,548 when I looked it up. And the attendance that day was 86,258. And I can kind of see it. Like when I looked around, I did see a lot of fans there, a few empty seats here and there. So that does sound accurate. So uh, it is a good sized stadium. And I think from what I read, it's the biggest stadium in the state of Florida, too, which can make sense because pro football teams don't always get up into the 80s. They kind of can hover around maybe 50, 60,000, something like that. The Pontiac Silverdome was huge. That was where the Lions played years ago before Ford Field. That was in the 80,000s. Um, and then as regards like Miami plays where the Dolphins play again at NFL stadiums like around the 60s. And I did a podcast on them. I know I mentioned the capacity probably in it. Just don't remember what it was. And then Florida State I haven't been to yet. They at the current moment here in 2025. They're the last team that I need to go see in the state of Florida is Florida State Seminoles. Pretty much seen everyone else. I don't know, but they must not have an 80,000 seat stadium either. And then of course like UCF, they're not going to. So if they got the biggest stadium in the state of Florida, that's good for them. Then the Swamp, that's kind of cool. I got to say that I saw it too. And then let's see here. Um, One thing that is kind of interesting that Florida does, uh, they have this little, I don't know, chant or whatever. Uh, I think they just call it the chomp, where they got their arms spread out like a gator's mouth, and their one hand is like pretty much slow clapping the other hand vertically, but it kind of makes it look like it's a gator chomping down on something. They call it the chomp. They did that quite a bit. And hey, when in Rome, I did it too while I was there. Like I said, I was a Florida Gators fan for a day. Wouldn't do that any other time. Even years ago when I kind of liked Florida, as I mentioned, I don't think I did it then either. It wasn't my thing to do. But I did it for that one day. One day I'll do it, and I did it, and got to root for the fans there, root for the home team. We ended up coming up with a big victory, 42-0 over Vanderbilt, who at the time had a defensive coordinator named Jesse Minter. And it's interesting, and I think about this. Sometimes you come across something in life, don't pay any attention to it, and then somehow in the future it becomes a bigger part of your life. And I say that in the sense that Jesse Minter was coaching Vanderbilt. Didn't know who he was. I couldn't tell you anybody on Vanderbilt back then. Nobody, not a coach, not a player, or anything. I don't follow Vanderbilt football. And but at the time, uh, Michigan had a defensive coordinator named Mike McDonald. Both him and Jesse Minter both came from the Baltimore Ravens. And after the 2020 season for Michigan, they were looking for a new defensive coordinator. Jim Harbaugh, who was the head coach at the time, reached out to his brother John Harbaugh, who was the coach at the Baltimore Ravens, and asked for recommendations. He had two people that he recommended, Mike McDonald and Jesse Minter. Harbaugh ended up hiring Mike McDonald for that season, and Jesse Minter ended up getting a defensive coordinator job at Vanderbilt. So I say that because after that 2021 season, which I'm this game that I'm talking about, it was within that year. Mike McDonald did a very great job at Michigan coaching the defense. That he ended up getting hired back with the Baltimore Ravens to be their defensive coordinator under John Harbaugh. Well, that left an opening for the defensive coordinator uh, in Michigan. Jim Harbaugh, who picked Mike McDonald first time, but they were both really good, ended up reaching out to Jesse Minter and became Michigan's defensive head coach and did just as good, if not better, than Mike McDonald. So I saw Jesse Minter in a way uh, that day. Didn't know who he was, didn't know anything. And you think, okay, they got blown out 42-0. How great maybe of a coordinator is he? He was a pretty darn good coordinator for Michigan. And then when Harbaugh left for the NFL a couple years later, he took Jesse Minter with him. Uh, yeah, so Jesse Minter, and this was one of those again. Sometimes you come across something or someone in your life very briefly, and next, sometime in the future they have a bigger part in your life. Jesse Minter, who I got to see coach live, but didn't know anything about him, and this wasn't the first time that something like that happened. Something similar happened in UNLV, which I'll have to talk about in another podcast. Um, but then just the following year later, ended up being Michigan's defensive coordinator and doing a pretty darn good job with them. So that was kind of cool, being able to say that. And then also another kind of miscellaneous thing with the Florida Gators. Uh, they were the university that came up with Gatorade, and everyone knows what Gatorade is. That is a super popular known drink. My guess, if, all over America, but maybe even in other countries too. That's where it came from. That's why it's called Gatorade. I'm sure if Florida State came up with it, it would have been Seminole Aid. If Miami Hurricanes came up with it, Hurricane Aid. I don't know, whatever they would have came up with. But Gatorade comes from Florida Gators. Apparently, there's some doctors or someone that formulated this drink to help the players because it's so hot there and they were losing so much out of their bodies that it helped replenish all the stuff that they were losing. Thus, Gatorade. It aided those Gator players. If you didn't know that where Gatorade came from, now you know. And of course, again, when in Rome, uh, we were there and it was very hot anyways. We could have gone with water. We went with Gatorade. We're at the birthplace of Gatorade. Might as well drink Gatorade. And that's what we did. Can't remember what flavor I had. Maybe the yellow one. I think it was the yellow one. Yeah. Um, so that's a little interesting tidbit about Florida as well. They, like I mentioned, they did win 42-0. That ended up being their fourth victory. At the time they came into that game 3-2. I didn't look up Vanderbilt what their record was. Um, they may have been. Let's see. Can I look that up real quick? I could try. Yeah, so they ended up being 4-2. They ended up going 6-6. They lost like three straight after that. So I'm looking at the schedule. Four of their next five. It's their only win against Samford, but then beat their rival Florida State 24-21. Okay, good for them. Went to a bowl game, the Gasparilla Bowl, Union Home Mortgage Gasparilla Bowl. Boy, I hate that name. I hate everything about that name. The corporate, the sponsorship, all of it, hate it all. It was on December 23rd. They played Central Florida in state. No, they're not a rival, but an in-state team anyways. Lost that game, 29-17. So ended up going 6-7. But as regards to Vanderbilt, let's see. Vanderbilt going into that game was 2-3. Oh, okay, so they actually had a couple of victories under their belt at the time, and and that was a loss that made them 2-4. All right, so that's what happened with that Vanderbilt. As I mentioned, I didn't, they weren't a great team. And going back to that Jesse Minter thing, I remember a lot of rivals, Michigan's rivals, kind of mocking them for getting Jesse Minter because Vanderbilt, like that's 42-0, right? Yeah. But really, it's not easy to go into Vanderbilt, especially first one and only year, to just build something dominant. When he came to Michigan, he helped build a dominant defense. Um, yeah, so it was a good hire for Michigan, that's for sure. Yeah, and Florida, as I mentioned, they've had their ups and downs. Some years they can be really good, and some years not so great. SEC has expanded. Um, uh, when they'll win another SEC title, I don't know. When I looked at that picture, it showed the last one was 2008. I think that was around the same time. Um, they won a national title under Urban Meyer. Was that the same year too? Let me see if I can see. I think so. Yeah, around that time. I don't. So but I was like, oh man, they haven't. When I saw that, they hadn't won since then. Um, yeah, so I guess it's been a little while since they've last won a conference title, and with it being expanded, teams like Texas and Oklahoma have joined, and SEC is a very talent-rich conference. It might be difficult for them to win it again. Not saying they can't. Just might be difficult to do, whatever that next time may be. Yeah, we'll see. Um, One final thing I did mention, I couldn't quite find a sign on the outside that said Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, but they did have a humongous scoreboard in one of their end zones that said it there. So that was the closest thing I got as regards to seeing the name on the stadium. And again, they won 42-0. Big victory for Florida over Vanderbilt at the time. I wouldn't call it a big game, but just a big victory over it. And if they sound like somewhere you'd like to go see, a team you'd like to go see, perhaps you got the same hobby as me, or you'd like to go visit the university, maybe scout it out for yourself. I don't know, whatever the case may be. If you want to go, let me know. Or if you'd like to go on vacation, again, cruises are my specialty. Maybe you'd like to do what I do a cruise and go to a game. which is an ideal vacation for me. Again, you can let me know. You can reach out to me two different ways. One is through social media. You can contact me through Instagram and or Facebook. Both are the same handles, Jay's Paradise Travels. That's Jays, no apostrophe in there. Jay's Paradise Travels. You can reach out to me that way. Or you can shoot me an email. My email address is j.paradise_travels@gmail.com. Once again, jay.paradise_travels@gmail.com. Feel free to shoot me an email and we can set up a time to discuss everything. And if you did like this video, please like it. Feel free to write down something in the comments section if you have any experience or memories with the Florida Gators, like I've shared with you, different the experience of going, and then all these different memories I have of the Florida Gators themselves. Feel free to do that. Just ask that you keep it clean. If you are a Miami fan, a Florida State fan, just keep it clean. This is a travel podcast, not a sports podcast, even though I'm talking about a sports game I went to. Um, yeah, just kind of keep it nice. If you notice, I try to do the same, even with Ohio State, Michigan State, and any of the rival teams from Michigan. I try to still talk respectfully about them. So ask you to do the same. But yeah, feel free to write something in the comment. Love to chat with you on it. Uh, like it, subscribe to the channel, please, if you haven't done so already, and share this podcast with others. And trying to make this world a happier place, one vacation at a time. So I'd love to be your travel agent, family, friends, travel agent, help you to go see either a game, go on a cruise, whatever it is. I'd love to be able to help you out with that. Thank you again for tuning in and listening today. Hope you liked it. Hope you learned something from it, took something away from it, and continue to please tune into other episodes. I'll talk to you guys again another time. Take care. Bye bye.